pleasure for me to introduce Congressman Steve Chabot, the congressman from Ohio. Before I introduce him, first a big applause, please. 2 weeks ago, I asked him, do you happen to be in San Jose the weekend of December 7 to 9? And he said, good news and bad news. The bad news first, I won't be there. But the good news is, I'm willing to fly for 5 hours from Cincinnati to San Jose, stay for 1 hour at the dinner, and take the red eye back to Cincinnati. That's the kind of guy Steve Chabot is. Not only that, I think he's in the top 3 Taiwan supporters in Congress. We all know that. We know he's, top 3 Taiwan supporters. He was elected in 1994. As he always says, he took a sabbatical for 2 years, from 2008 to 2010. Was not voluntary, that sabbatical, because he lost the elections. Sorry, Steve. But he came back in 2010, and he is a congressman, hopefully, for a long, long time. He is, as I said, top 3 supporters of Taiwan, and he supports all legislation, all the issues we do. And I've introduced him so many times, and it's always a great honor and pleasure to introduce him. So Steve Chabot, congressman from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Thank you very much, Kumbla. I appreciate that very much, and that warm welcome. Kumbla has been a good friend of mine for a long, long time. And I have to take the red eye back tonight because my wife said I have to rake the leaves tomorrow. But it's really wonderful to be here this evening, to see many old friends and new ones as well this evening. But before I get into my talk here, and I'll keep it relatively brief, I want to recognize somebody, a person who's a very special friend of mine. I've known him for 18 years now. When I first ran for Congress 18 years ago, I was running against an incumbent. Nobody gave me really much chance of winning. It's tough to beat an incumbent, but this man did. He lived in my area in Cincinnati. He is a former FAPA president, and that's Dr. C.T. Lee and his beautiful wife, Cindy. Would you please stand up, both of you? They're wonderful people. And we did win that election, by the way, and I wouldn't be here tonight had I not, so I really do appreciate their help and their friendship. And I'm really delighted to be at FAPA's 30th anniversary banquet. This is an organization that really is significant both for Taiwan and for the United States. You do so much good, and I just want to thank you. It really is an honor to be here with you tonight. And I am one of the 4 co-founders of the Congressional Taiwan Caucus in the United States Congress, and I've had the pleasure of speaking at many FAPA events, thank you very much, on Capitol Hill and other places as well. And I've co-sponsored many pieces of legislation that are pro-Taiwan in the United States Congress. And many members of Congress have been involved in this for many, many years now. And as a friend of Taiwan and as a 16-year member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and as a member of the Asian Subcommittee, I've been able to make a few observations about Taiwan, and I'd like to share those with you here. And I'll try to, again, be very brief. I remember when my first time, when I first came to Congress back in 1995, at that time, the PRC, the People's Republic of China, Red China, had a couple of 100 missiles pointed at Taiwan. And over the years, that number has grown and grown and grown. And it's now up to 1,600 missiles that are aimed at Taiwan from the PRC. And that has to change. Now, I don't want to make a partisan speech here this evening, but I do think it's fair to say that the current administration in Washington has too often courted the communist regime at the expense of our friends in Taiwan. And when we have been able, excuse me, to coax a reluctant State Department to come and testify before our Foreign Affairs Committee, I have made my position pretty clear about what I think. And the Obama administration must move forward with a defense package for Taiwan, particularly with an up-to-date F-16 component. If China is going to continue to threaten the much smaller neighbor, Taiwan, then Taiwan should have the ability to defend itself. And on a personal note, I want to mention another issue that I feel very strongly about. I've known former President Chen Shui-bian for many years now, since he was mayor of Taipei. I met with him numerous times, both in Taiwan and in the United States, and I consider him to be a friend, and a friend of the United States. And it troubles me that as a Taiwanese democracy activist and as a former two-term president of Taiwan, he remains incarcerated in a Taipei jail. Many of us in Congress are very concerned about President Chen's health and well-being. And without getting into any of the legal matters that surround his particular case, I have appealed to President Ma for his release from confinement on humanitarian grounds. It is my hope that the Ma administration will reconsider its current stand and grant President Chen medical parole. And finally, I want to address an insulting and counterproductive U.S. policy that I've brought up with every administration official that has appeared before the Foreign Affairs Committee on Taiwan-related issues over the years, both Republican and Democratic administrations. And that is the issue of restrictions on high-level visits by Taiwanese officials to the United States. Some years ago, then President Chen visited the United States. But because of the State Department's short-sighted policy, he was not allowed to visit Washington, D.C. I and a number of other members of Congress made a trip. We flew all the way up to New York to meet with President Chen. Years later, I still bristle at the policy that insulted the elected president of a Democratic ally. That has to change. I also tell the story, and I'd like to mention this one here tonight, of my friend who's right here, a former FAPA president, Mark Chen. When he was a legislator, he came to visit with me at the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. A couple of weeks later, he was appointed foreign minister, and he wasn't permitted to come back to Washington, D.C. So I had to travel to Baltimore to meet with President, excuse me, I don't want to say President, but with Mark Chen. And that policy has to change. So my friends, while I'm just one member of Congress, I want you to know that you can count on me to remain a friend of FAPA and a friend of Taiwan, and that I will continue to be a vocal voice on behalf of the freedom and security of the Taiwanese people. And no, I'm not running for FAPA president. So, you've had very good ones over the years, and you don't need me. I do, as was mentioned, I have a red-eye flight to take back to Cincinnati tonight, so I'll conclude my remarks now. I want to thank you all for your very warm hospitality here this evening. I met a lot of folks that I knew before, and some folks I didn't know that I now consider to be my friends. Happy birthday to FAPA. God bless you all. God bless your families. God bless the United States of America. And God bless Taiwan. Thank you.
We have a standing ovation